there's bad news, because unless I say it twice, you will hear this only once, and you will not find it anywhere else. This is not something you can Google, and because it's not out there. So tonight I'm privileged, and you are lucky in that way. Okay, tonight I'm going to focus on the fourth key of persuasion. There are three other keys, of course, that go before the fourth, the first three keys. I'll review those very quickly, because I think half of you probably know what those keys are. So it'll be a bit of a refresher for some. It might be new for others. Okay, first key. The first key is about the message. And oddly enough, the message is one of the weakest parts of speeches that I hear, possibly even presentations. Message, for some reason, is either non-existent or hidden somewhere at the end. Often it is almost never up front, and is almost never repeated, and it is almost never absolutely clear. So my message about the message is get the message right, in the sense that you want it absolutely clear. Clarity, in this case, to help you get clarity, restrict your message to, here's the rule, okay? Do this and all will be well with you. 10 words or less. That's the rule for a clear message. 10 words or less. If it's 11 words, that's more than 10. 10, 9, 8, anything below that is absolutely fine. Now, obviously, the message has to also make sense, but you're the only one that can be the judge of that before you deliver it to your audience. Okay, so the rule is, and this rule has served me so well over all these years, and that is keep the message within 10 words or less. Okay, that's the first key of persuasion. Second key is about the topic or areas that you're going to talk on. And the question here really is it better to be interested in your audience or to be interesting for your audience? In other words, is it better to want to know about what they want to know about, or is it better for you to be so entertaining that they want to listen to you? Which do you think is the more important? To be interested in their issues and their problems, or to be interesting and so entertaining that they look at you as, wow, that's a fantastic speaker? Which is more important? This one you have to answer for yourself. Now, your answer, you know, most of you are probably on mute. So if you're not on mute, you can say the answer, that's fine. If you are on mute, just shout the answer because no one can hear you, okay? Scream it in the house. Take a position. Interesting or interested? Your position may or may not agree with mine. I'm going to share with you what I think works. This is what I think works, and I'll also tell you why it works. I think it is more interesting, and probably 90-10, in the sense of that's the balance, right? 90-10. It is better, it is more important to be interested in your audience. Interested. It's okay to be interesting. Maybe we can see interesting as a bonus. All right. Some people have a bit of a gift. Interesting is the bonus, but the meat and potatoes is to be interested in your audience. Now, there's a psychological reason for this. Everyone is interested in who? More than anything else in the world. Usually the answer is themselves. Okay. Self-interest is the biggest psychological driver of all. Huh? So if you understand someone else's self-interest, you're in. You understand that your speech, your presentation, particularly your presentations, right? Your business presentations, your sales presentations, or whatever presentation you have to make professionally. Know that this is a game. Even a speech, it's a game. It's a psychological game. And whether you know how to play or not, you are playing the game. So it's better to know how to play. And being interested in your audience means you know what they want out of your session, what they would listen to naturally. You might even know what they are afraid of. Is knowing what they're afraid of something that they're interested in? Of course it is. People make decisions based on fear. They make decisions based on happiness and joy and fun. Oh, yes, but they also, and for the most part, make decisions based on what is safe. So if you know what drives them to be afraid about this subject, or what drives them to be delighted about this subject, you're in. You can craft and frame your message and your points and move in a direction which it's interesting to them because you have been interested in them. Okay? Right. Very good. We're now at key number 3. We're getting to key number 4, but we'll do key 3 first. Key number 3 is the one word is answer. Answer. Be prepared with an answer. Actually, be prepared with answers. Answers to what? Answers to what? Be prepared with answers to questions that you imagine your audience want to know. I'll say it again. Be prepared with answers to the questions your audience wants to know, needs to know, must know. Because even if you don't talk about these things specifically, someone might ask you. And if it is, say if it's a business presentation, you're proposing a solution to a problem that they have, they've got questions about your solution. Of course they will. You know, your 20 minutes or however long you present isn't going to cover every question that, you know, those people there, the people who make decisions are going to have. So be prepared. Imagine what they want to know, what they need to know, and be prepared. If you do that, and the other two things, the other 2 keys that I've mentioned, you're 80%, maybe more than 80%. You're 80% of the way there to persuading people. Absolutely. No questions asked about this. This is where most of the work of persuasion is done. It's not where all of the work is done. There's other levels, which we'll get to. But this is where most of the work is done. So once again, first key, message. Make it 10 words or less. Okay? My message tonight is the 4th key of persuasion. The 4th key of persuasion. And I'm going to get to that. But that's my message tonight. The 4th key of persuasion, 5 words. Siu Feng's message in her last speech was, you know, if you ever thought of loving an auntie, don't wait, you know, do it now. That's whatever it was. I think she put into 9 words or 8 words. Yeah, you know, make it clear. And another thing about message, repeat. Repeat the message. Say it again and again and again. Every point you make, you say the message, maybe at the end of the point, maybe at the beginning. And of course, you close with it. Always repeat. What gets remembered, what gets repeated gets remembered. It's human nature. That's just the way it is. Okay? Even if it's really simple, repeat it. Just repeat it. Even if it's the one word, just repeat that word. 4th key of persuasion coming up. Okay, so first key was message. Second key was to be interested in audience. All right? That's really important. And finally, be prepared with the answers to questions. By the way, if you're prepared with, if you think about what questions people might have about this solution that you're presenting to them, okay? that almost writes your speech. That almost writes your presentation. That almost creates the 3 points that you're going to hit on so that you cover the areas that you know they're worried about. You see what I'm saying? Okay. The time to love an auntie is now. Yes. From one of the men in the group who clearly has heard the message. Good message, by the way. The time to love an auntie is now. Yeah, okay. Okay. Ha ha ha, it's not the message, Sifong. That's the message, the time to love an auntie is now. Are you ready or not, Sifong? Now is the time. The time for what? To love an auntie, love, of course. Okay, why do I remember it? Yeah, yes, I know why I remember it, because, yes, never mind. Right, key number 4. I've kept you waiting long enough. Huh? Key number 4 is, I hope you know what this word means. And if you don't know, we'll spend a moment to explain it. The word is intrigue. Intrigue. Okay, you can, if you have access to Google, you can look it up if you need to know what it is. INTRIGUE, intrigue. Basically, it means to create some mystery, but not the point is not to create mystery. I think creating mystery around something is the process of intrigue. The point of intrigue is to create desire. Do you hear me? To create desire. You might ask, Merv, how do you create desire? Well, okay, let's get one thing straight. 50% of the population already know how. The other 50% a bit clueless, but 50% already know how. Which 50%? The women lah. Right? They know how to create desire. Even if they don't know how they're doing it, they know how to do it. Okay? Makeup lah, baju lah, jewelry lah, the look lah, the posture lah, the hair lah, the gestures, all designed to create desire, whether they know it or not. If that were not true, if what I'm saying is not true, then our human race, no hope, okay? There must be desire created in order for, the whole thing to work. You know what I'm saying? For the whole thing to work. Okay, now, when it comes to how do you create desire in a speech? Well, there are ways. One way is the way you use your voice. You guys know the idea of tone, right? Of course you do, public speakers. You know tone. Now, I have to say one thing about tone before I say anything else. Tone is not vocal variety. It's not. Vocal variety might play a part, but minor. If you ask me, after all these years of trying to get the right tone and use the right vocals and whatever, and of course it's a skill, fine, right? It is not what's persuasive. Vocal variety it doesn't persuade. What vocal variety tends to do, because we do it badly, because we're not trained, and because we don't practice it enough, it tends to come across as amateur, okay? And amateur means you're trying hard to impress. And anytime you try to impress, that will come across, and that will go against any attempt to persuade, all right? Trying to impress will go against your attempts to persuade, to sell, to convince, okay? I'm not saying you don't, dress nicely and, have a shower and everything and be presentable before your presentation, but you're not trying to impress people, with your image or with your voice. Or I'm not saying don't have good image. I'm not saying don't have good voice. What I'm saying is don't try to impress people that way. All right? The first 3 keys of persuasion, if you haven't noticed, are about content. This 4th one is about delivery. How you deliver something, whatever it is that you say, if you say it a certain way, and this is where the vocal variety does come in. If you say it a certain way, it generates desire. It generates intrigue. But it's not because of vocal variety. It's not because of vocal variety. It's because of the idea that you decided to chop in half. Okay? Because of what? The idea that you decided you're going to chop in half. Actually, it may not be in half. Huh? You decide where in this idea, this sentence, you're going to chop it. You're going to stop it so that people wait for the next bit. All right? So let me see if I can give you an example of this. I'm going to tell you something tonight that you have never heard before and you will never hear again. Okay? I stop it there. So I'm going to tell you something that you've never heard before and you'll never hear again. Then I stop it there. That's at the beginning. Do you remember that? That's at the very beginning. Now I continue by telling you the rest of what it was that I started to tell you. So I didn't tell you any specifics in the beginning. I told you about what I was going to tell you about. I didn't tell you the fourth key. I told you that I would tell you something that you will never hear again and that you can never look up on Google. So that is how, that's one way to generate intrigue, to generate the desire for people to want to hear what you have to say next. There are some very, very simple and subtle ways, and you might even do them already, which is great. The problem with doing them already but not knowing that you're doing them is that you don't then know how to replicate that. So if you know you're doing it, or if you know how to do it, then you can replicate that, and that's what we're aiming for, right? We want the same results over and over and over in every speech. Okay, so there's some simple ways to do it. Some you might even say something like that, and usually it will always appear before you say the content, right? Before you say what you're going to say, you say something like this. What I'm about to tell you is really interesting. The next thing I'm going to say, everybody has asked me about. So those are two examples. So I've not told you what I'm going to tell you, but I've told you that it's going to be good, that it's going to be interesting, that there's social proof that it's interesting because everyone has asked me about it. So these are very simple ways to say, to lead up to what you're about to say. Because if you just say what you're about to say, it could be flat. Even though the content is good, even though the point is valid, it still could come across as flat. You want to pull people in a little bit, attract them, create some desire so that what you're about to say becomes now an attractive thing to listen to. As we know, attention spans are really short these days. I think attention spans were longer before COVID. Now it's crazy. So, you know, you're really up against it as a public speaker, really up against it. I mean, I had to deal with, for 20 years, I had to deal with audiences which were, for the most part, 12 years old. 12 years. Attention span of a 12-year-old? Do you know what attention span of a 12-year-old is like? And do you know what an attention span of a 12-year-old or of 112-year-olds in the room at the same time is like? Yeah, they have way more interesting things to talk about than what you are about to tell them. Believe me, they have way more interesting things on their mind. So you've got to get in and create desire for them to listen. I mean, you can scold your way through what, but you know, that wasn't my business. That was the teacher's business. My business was to talk to them about, you know, whatever. I was talking to them about Shakespeare and drama and the lessons we can learn in life from these things, right? The lessons they can actually apply, and as well as there are many things going on, you know. So I had, for 20 years, I had audiences consistently. I had audiences that did not want to be there. They didn't want to be there. Guess what? I had a weapon, intrigue. There are other weapons as well. You know, there's entertainment, which is fine, but eventually I got a bit, it got a bit tiring to be so entertaining because my sessions were 3 hours long. So, you know, you can't jump up and down and be a clown for 3 hours. That'll wear you out. And I just got a bit too old for it. Plus, I suffered a sports injury, which meant I had to sit down and deliver my 3 hours. Um, and when you no longer have the ability to dramatize things because of my injury, I was not able to do that. You start to look for other ways to keep people's interest. Now, I know a lot of you either have tried it or have been told to try it, and that is to dramatize stuff in your speech. Okay? My straightforward, honest opinion about that is don't do it. That's my honest opinion. All right? I think in Toastmasters, if you want to try it out, fine. Because Toastmasters is it's a great platform to try things out. But when you get out into, into the jungle, you don't want to be trying things because you're being paid for that time. And when you're being paid for the time, it's not, of course you learn from what you do, right? But you're not paid to experiment with that audience, all right? You want to have tried things out. So Toastmasters is a great platform to do that. Anyway, I'm not saying, I'm not saying don't be animated and don't be full of personality. Be full of personality, be animated, be enthusiastic. These are all good things. These are all the very persuasive things. But what I'm saying is don't act things out just because you think that that's going to work, all right? If you're delivering a presentation or a speech, it's words, it's ideas. That is where you must win, all right? Words, ideas, and of course, your understanding of how the game is played. Okay, back to Intrigue. By the way, I'm supposed to. I don't have a timing light thing. Has it gone red or purple by now? It's red. I have to look at what? I have to look at Lee Hong. I'm looking at myself, lah. Okay, hey, I'm so sorry. It's red already, is it? Okay, I've gone through the. Okay, so I've gone through the 4. Message. Be interested in audience every time. I'm not interesting to the audience. I mean, that's a bonus, but be interested. Know what they want out of the session. Know, and you don't have to ask them, please. Don't ask them. Don't be so stupid. You have to ask them. I mean, if you have conversation, that's fine. Guess, because you've got a brain. You imagine, if I were in their position, what would I want to hear? What would I need to hear? What would I want to hear, even though I'm afraid to hear it? Okay, that's being interested in the audience, and be prepared with answers to some of the questions you think they might need answers to, and finally, the delivery is about intrigue. Yes, you can use the pause, you can use the tone of voice, but set up the idea and cut it off at the right point, and then later proceed with with the actual thing that you wanted to say. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. You've been fantastic. No one's interrupted me. I did see a few messages, but they were funny. And Q&A. Have we got time for Q&A? No. Yes. Q&A. Yes. Yes. 1, 2 questions maybe about persuasion or about these specific keys. Anybody? Yes? No? Right. Now, at this point, this is a point where a lot of presenters get to, right? Where you've done your presentation and your audience hasn't asked a question. That's okay. That's fine. It's no problem.
There's a question in the chat idea. How to find the cutting point of a message to create the intrigue?
How to find her? You look like
cutting point. Yeah.
You make that decision. This is not something I can tell you. Oh, cut at 3 inches. You make that decision. You make that decision. I'll give you a guideline. The guideline is you must offer some value first. And once you've offered that value, you can cut it off. Now, you don't offer the whole thing yet. So offer value means you generate the desire first. Going back to my example, okay, the next thing I'm about to say is really interesting. Okay, so I've offered some value there, as in the promise of value. Now, I've seen this done poorly, but it's a good question, by the way, because, you know, where do you cut it off, right? The answer is that you must make that decision yourself, all right? And you can try these things out, of course. But I've seen it done poorly. There was once someone heard about this idea and then wanted to use it right away. And it's good because, you know, he used it in the Toastmaster meeting, and it's a safe space to use it. Hopefully he's moved on, because the way he did it was it fell flat. And if I can remember it, it went something like, he said, I won't tell you what's happening next. That's what he said. So you got to give a bit more than that. Maybe change that idea. I won't tell you what's happening next. That is not intriguing. It is it's being aloof. You understand the difference, right? Being intriguing means you do give something. You give half of something. You show a little bit of, you know, the button come down. Show a bit, right? Okay. So there's a promise of you know, more to come. They must always feel like there's a promise of more to come after you've given them, you've said something interesting, basically. Okay, so where you cut it off, you'll know. I think you will know where to cut it off. And of course, that's the skill, isn't it? And some people are better at others than in that skill. So, you know, where I cut things off, you might think, wow, that was amazing. Then you can try that. And then where you cut things off, someone else might think, wow, that one is a different level to mine. So yeah, it's a skill, and see how it goes. Okay, one more question.
Second question, do we always need to have moral at the end of the speech?
No, don't do it. Next question.
Okay, Intrigue, how to make sure our tone is not impress people?
Okay, that one is between you and Buddha, okay? This is what drives you inside. You must understand yourself. You must try as far as possible to let go of the desire to be validated by your audience. Now, we all have this because it's natural. We all want, you know, to be accepted by, you know, when we open our mouth, we want what we say to be accepted by other people. This is human nature, all right? But as a speaker, you must have the ability to put that aside and be more interested in what your audience wants to hear. You know, what your audience needs to hear, what they must know about this topic, because that's where their interest is, rather than you focus on, it's all about me. Now, I would say for me, the best way to do that, apart from, you know, telling yourself that, you know, it cannot be about me, it's not about me, it's about them, it's about them. The best way to do that is to be prepared. You know, this business about having the message clear, showing interest in your audience, knowing what they're afraid of, knowing what makes them happy, knowing what drives them to do things, knowing why they're sitting in the audience, and also the answers to the questions you think they want. These 3 keys, this is preparation. You're preparing content. And the more prepared you are, the better you will be at putting aside this desire to impress people. You know, for me, I've reached the stage that, you know, it's like nirvana. You know, I don't give an F about what anyone thinks. So when someone wants me to be honest about something, it's not a problem. You know, and you know, I'm not trying to be mean. If I'm honest, I'm not trying to be mean, but sometimes honesty is the weapon people need to break to the next level. I think Gurmit mentioned something about that. He's right. It's what he needed, and you know, he had enough courage to welcome it. Okay, very good.
Last question. How do we practice tone?
Hey, how come you are asking all the questions?
I read the question for you. So I'm so kind.
Yes. Okay.
You think that you should buy me something, buy me lunch or dinner because I read the question for you?
Yes. Next.
Thank you. How do we practice the tone? Thank you. Last question.
Okay, tone. Tone. Okay, I did say what tone is not, right? I said tone is not vocal variety. I'll tell you what tone is. This is my definition. You'll not find this on Google. This is my definition. Tone is your attitude, right? My attitude, speaker's attitude towards the audience. Your attitude towards your audience is reflected in your tone. If your mother is angry at you, you will know it how? In her tone. If Wei Tat is happy with what you said, he will know it in his tone. Tone is a reflection of your attitude towards your audience. So if your attitude towards your audience is one of fear, you are afraid of them, guess what? They'll feel it because it will come out in your tone. And of course, a lot of people try to overcompensate for that. And so overcompensation, overconfident, is a clear indication that someone is